I know the Cincinnati Bengals are being extremely weird about whatever's going on with Trey Hendrickson and now Shamar Stewart apparently too. But Packer fans, it's time to understand the reinforcements are not coming for this pass rush.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm still seeing it. I'm still seeing the Packer meme accounts and bloggers and social media sphere fantasy booking Packers trades for Trey Hendrickson. And I'm not gonna rain on anyone's parade here. I'm not gonna say if that's the way that you want to, go about fanning, do it. I'm telling you, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think they're gonna do anything. Like I've made the case for Jadeveon Clowney. He's a free agent. Maybe in August that happens. It's not like it has never happened. Green Bay went out and got Whitney Merciless when they had an opportunity. And I think Clowney at this point in his career, very similar, maybe a better player than Merciless was when Green Bay got him. And then, he had the unfortunate injury and never really got a chance to contribute in Green Bay. This Trey Hendrickson thing is ugly. It is weird. The Bengals are playing hardball with him, apparently, reportedly offering $28 million when Danielle Hunter just got $35 million at the same age. And only one of them led the league in sacks last year. They are being weird about it. But they were also weird about T. Higgins, who they franchised twice before ultimately re-signing. They're weird about contracts. They also don't trade players. They don't do trades. This is a weird front office. This is a weird ownership group. I know you want Trey Hendrickson. He's not coming. Probably. If this pass rush is going to be better, it's going to be better because Rashawn Gary is more comfortable in year 2, is another year removed from the injury, and just plays with more force. Gets back to just running through people. If it's better, it will be because Devontae Wyatt is healthy and does a 15% better job of finishing opportunities when he has them. There are a lot of them. He is one of the most disruptive pass rushers along the interior in the NFL. If he could half finish plays, he could have had 10 sacks last year. I've said that over and over and over, and it's true. He could have had 10 sacks last year. Now, that's before we get to the internal development of Lucas Van Ness. That's before we get to, the additions of Colin Oliver or Baron Sorrell. This is a Packers team that is likely as it's going to be. This is what it's going to look like. Could they get a street free agent that surprises us? Sure. Devondre Campbell surprised us. Street free agent in the summer. There could be someone out there. Now, Jadeveon Clowney would be a much higher level name than that. A much more productive player for his career. Also a former #1 overall pick, so the pedigree is different. But this is the group. This is the group. So look, if you want to spend time pining over something that's not going to happen, go ahead. And I don't think this is, I don't think I am being like the naturally cynical folks before the drafts going, their Packer fans go again. Their Packers media goes again saying they're going to draft a receiver. They never draft a receiver. This isn't that. This isn't that. Because Green Bay had an opportunity in the draft multiple times. Packers types on the board in the first 3 rounds. They did not prioritize adding to this defensive front. They added a designated pass rusher type and a 4th round pass rusher, edge player, defensive end. As much as they like to say, we go best player available. No, they don't. No, they don't. They go best player available at a position we really want. That's what they do. Everyone always says, we drafted the guy who was the highest on our board. No, you didn't. And that's okay. Really, it is okay. I just, I wish they were a little bit more honest about it. I wish every team were a little bit more honest about it, but they're not. Now, maybe down the draft, 2nd, 3rd round, 4th round, maybe. But the trends are too obvious too often. Like 2018, I do believe Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson were the 2 highest rated players on the Packers board. But it just so happens they needed corners. Come on. I think it's reasonable to say that they probably, Ja was up there for them. They did trade up to get him. But come on. Darnell Savage was they traded up for Darnell Savage. He was the highest graded player on their board. No, they needed a safety to start for them day one. Quay Walker, the highest graded player on their, no, they wanted a linebacker. It's okay. It's okay. They reveal their preferences to us. They don't think, now if they could get Trey Hendrickson on the cheap, great. But if they could, the Bengals are not going to trade him. Like that's not happening. If they were going to trade him, it would have been before this most recent draft when you could get something for him right now to go compete right now. So unless the Packers are going to do a player for player draft or trade, unless this is going to be Trey Hendrickson for Rasheed Walker, which, by the way, I have soft pushed before. Unless this is going to be Trey Hendrickson for a pick and Jair Alexander on a reworked deal. I just don't see it happening. It doesn't make sense for the Bengals. The Bengals don't do these things, so they would have to be so enticed by something that they couldn't not do it. And I don't think Green Bay is willing to do that. And if they were, I don't know why they wouldn't have done it a month ago. Now, again, the Bengals operate in weird ways, but it's just not happening. It's just not. And that's okay. I think the group can be good. I think this can be a good pass rush. They're probably not going to have that A-level star player. Like there's Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Rashawn Gary is not going to become that. But if Rashawn Gary is 2021 Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark is just like regular old Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt just plays 15, 16 games, they're going to be fine. They're going to be good. Jeff Hafley is a good designer, a good schemer of defense, a good blitz caller and designer. Edgerrin Cooper is a maniac as a blitzer. Quay Walker can be a maniac as a blitzer in this defense. They were great getting simulated pressures, getting free rushers, only rushing 4. Finding opportunities to bring nickel pressures. They still finished among league leaders in sacks. They just did it in a different kind of way. Trey Hendrickson's not coming. I'm sorry. Now, They do, or at least they did need to make some changes to this offensive structure, particularly on play action. And there was something that I think I underestimated its impacts last year. And you can see the Packers' offseason moves once again through this. We'll talk about it next on Locked On Packers. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Come on. We've got a terrific set of games in the NBA playoffs. Less so in the Western Conference Finals, but certainly the Eastern Conference Finals. Absolute bonkers, banana cuckoo. If you were going to ride Aaron Nesmith making threes on a same-game parlay, you could have made some serious money. Plus, $200 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I was listening to a podcast. They were doing a quarterback draft, and Ollie Connolly, our pal from the Read Optional, he's been on the show a bunch, mentioned that the Packers, and I wrote about this today for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, that the Packers on under center play action, like the turn your back to the defense kind of play action. So you get under center, or the Packers, they do that spinner stuff. You're turning your back to the defense. I don't know. I assume that's a True Media stat. I don't know if True Media charts those, but whatever the cohort that they charted was a pressure rate on under center on turn your back play action. That was the prompt of 59%. 59% of plays where they used turn your back play action resulted in pressure. That is bonkers. And I went back and watched, much like I did on the third and longs, because I wanted to see what the problems were. And by and large, the problems were offensive line. Now, the very first play, or the very first game that I watched, the Eagles game, there was a play that Matt LaFleur described. Hey, it's a run play. That's what a play action is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like a run play. So on a run play, there's plenty of times when you are blocking a defensive end with a tight end. And so if you're going to make the pass play look like a run play, you have to block that defensive end with a tight end. And Tucker Kraft gets olayed by Brandon Graham. I mean, just gets left in the dust. Now, luckily, the way the protection was set up, Josh Jacobs was there. That's by design because you have a tight end blocking a defensive end, a true pass rushing player. But it still created pressure and it scuttled the play. Now, the first play that I watched, because you can sort all through this on NFL Pro, Josh Myers got beat so bad. He runs into Elton Jenkins, thus freeing two Eagles defenders to chase down Jordan Love. So, that right away, he walks. He gets paid nothing in free agency. Not surprising to me. Not surprising to you, I'm sure. And then you're doing this change with Elton Jenkins. You're moving him to center, hoping to get better at maybe, if not two positions, at least materially improve that first position. There were a couple plays where Sean Ryan got beat. Interior pressure was a big problem. But guess what? You know who made a number of mistakes, or at least not mistakes, got beat a number of times as I watched? Zach Tom. And I was surprised by that. Now, not surprised in retrospect, as I went back and watched more of this team over the course of the offseason, I noticed especially good pass rushers beating him. And there was that piece recently about, he wasn't feeling 100%. The torn pec wasn't able to work technique like he wanted to in the offseason. He felt like he got better than he was the year before, but that not where he wanted to be. You see that on tape. There are some bad. Montez Sweat dump trucks him in Chicago. Dump trucks him on a bull rush. Just runs him over. There's a play against the Eagles where he way oversets outside and just gets like casually beat inside. Like it wasn't even close. It's not that surprising then that they drafted Anthony Belton in the second round and that it sounds like he's going to compete to play. And then if you tie in the Rob Demovsky reporting from last offseason, hey, we think Zach Tom can be an all-pro center. I talked about the synergy of the front office and the coaches coming together, but as much as I still believe that to be true, I think I overrated the season that Zach Tom had in some ways. I still think he's a very good football player by and large. But now I have this line in my head, stuck in my head, where someone said, you know, he looks like a Pro Bowler until he plays a Pro Bowler. And I do wonder if the Packers watched him and thought, maybe he is an interior offensive lineman after all. Maybe he is a center after all. And that Elton Jenkins is just going to be a cap casualty in a year. You move Zach Tom to center, and now you've got Anthony Belton at right tackle, Jordan Morgan at left tackle. You're paying your tackles nothing. And you're paying, maybe Sean Ryan gets an extension, and you're paying Aaron Banks. You got Zach Tom on an extension, but a center extension. I don't know how they would negotiate that. They could tag him, I suppose. They're going to want to get an extension done now if the plan is to move him. But are you going to give him an extension as a right tackle? Are you going to pay him $20 million? $23, $25 million? And then move him to center? That seems unlikely. Maybe they just wait. Maybe they wait until training camp. This is not uncommon for them. Hey, if they're going to extend Zach Tom, they're going to do it October, September. You know, like Rashawn Gary's contract extension didn't happen in May. Now, he may just get more expensive. You know, he beats out Anthony Belton. It looks like, you know, he comes back refreshed and healthy and a full offseason under his belt. He's got, you know, his body looks the best that it's ever been. He's as strong as he's ever been. And he just looks great. Well, 2 more tackles might get paid in the meantime. And then you're looking at even more money. That is the risk that you take. So they have to have a plan here. But they also have to have a plan for this play action problem. And, you know, I dive into the problem itself and some of the solutions in the article more over at The Leap. So I don't want to, you know, totally preempt that. But it was obvious to me watching it that Jordan Love elevated that team more than he got credit for sure. Some of the best plays of the season were play action with pressure, where he's turning his back to the defense, he's turning around, and he's got to do something. Like that throw that he makes to Christian Watson against the Lions is as good a throw, as good at play as any quarterback made last year. That is not overpraise. It is an unbelievable play. A linebacker free running at you. You make that guy miss by sliding to the left and up, but then the pocket collapses there. And so now you have to move again, half set your feet and throw a laser beam to Christian Watson into coverage, into a freaking keyhole for a big play at a time in the game when you needed a big play. Those are the things. And when you watch, I mean, I watched all of them. The plays that are made are scheme. So, okay, you just had the perfect play call for coverage. You know, they played a Christian Watson against the Lions in the first game where it's like Christian Watson, yeah, he gets open, but it's a call for, it's an primo call for the coverage. They get Dontavian Wicks against the 49ers, primo call for the coverage. But against pressure, there's a throw. I think it's in the first Lions game, but one of the Lions games, Love makes a throw against pressure, gets blasted, and Christian Watson loses the ball in the lights, I think. Because he's running open, and if he just keeps running, the ball lands right in his hands. Now, whether he catches it or not, you know, who's to say? but he misjudges it, sort of slows down, and then has to jump and leap arms over his head. It's like if you hadn't slowed down, if you'd have just kept running, the ball would have just plopped right in. It's an outrageous throw. They're the plays that he can make that very few other guys can. That's why Ali, on that podcast with Mina Kimes, said he thinks Jordan Love is the best show going, the best show in the NFL. Because when he's doing his thing, he is as entertaining to watch as any player in the league. And I think he's right. It's like, guys like Love, Lamar. It used to be Mahomes, but he doesn't even play a fun style anymore because that offense is such a slog. It's fun to see him be great, but like that offense is not fun to watch. It was fun to watch with Tyreek Hill and peak Travis Kelce, and like that was fun. This is not fun. Lamar Jackson is extremely fun. Josh Allen is extremely fun. Joe Burrow is less fun just because it's all about just going to give Jamar Chase and T. Higgins chances. Like he can be deadly accurate a lot of times and he's so tough, but it's not what Jordan Love does where he like the play that I mentioned. Escapes two guys in the pocket and just makes a ridiculous throw. Like all due respect to Joe Burrow, he's not making that throw. He's not making that play. Doesn't mean that Jordan Love is a better quarterback. It's just like he can do things that even great players don't have access to. I'm very bullish about what he can be and this offense can be this year if he can be healthy. And keeping him healthy means improving this offensive line, which the Packers efforted in the offseason. We'll see if it actually worked. I want to talk next about a player that I don't know that I've said 5 words about all offseason, and that's unfair. Let's talk about that player next on Locked On Packers. Javon Bullard. There, I said it. I don't know how many times over the course of the offseason we've actually talked about Javon Bullard. We've talked about him tangentially when we've talked about the secondary and what they can be. And we still don't have a great idea of where he's going to play because they bring in Nate Hobbs, who was a slot corner, Keyshawn Nixon, previously a slot corner. And Javon Bullard last year played in the slot, but he also played safety. And Mark Oldacres from Packers Wire had this great stat. Bullard was one of 5 DBs who played 250 snaps at both free safety and in the slot last year. And he was the first rookie to do that since 2007, almost 20 years since a rookie has been that kind of player. Here are the other players who did that in 2024. The other players who played 250 snaps of free safety and in the slot. Brian Branch, All-Pro. Derwin James, All-Pro. Kyle Hamilton, All-Pro. Quentin Lake. That's a pretty good group of guys to be in company. Now, did Javon Bullard have a standout, virtuosic rookie season? No. Did he make a couple plays every game where you just go, yeah, no one else on the team would have made that play in that spot? Like there were 2 or 3 plays every game where I went, if that's Keyshawn Nixon, he does not make that play. All due respect to Keyshawn Nixon, because there's plenty of plays Keyshawn Nixon made on the outside that like Javon Bullard's not going to make. They're different players with different skill sets. His ability to support the run, to play with force, was outstanding. There were some times in coverage where he got beat. And look, Jordan Addison, got him for a touchdown in Minnesota on a special route. Is Kyle Hamilton going to stick with Addison on that play? Is Derwin James? Like those names that I mentioned, Brian Branch? I don't know. I really don't. It was an incredibly difficult play to defend for anybody. So some of that stuff I can't get too down on him for. Plus, this was your day one no-doubt starter at free safety from the moment he was drafted. It was just like, yep, him and Xavier McKinney. And that's despite Evan Williams absolutely balling out in training camp. And what do you have, 7 interceptions or something crazy like that during the course of camp? Like he was excellent by all accounts in camp. And it was like, yeah, okay, but Javon Bullard is a starter. And it took an injury to Jair Alexander for them to move him into the slot. You get to move Evan Williams into the starting lineup. That was a pivotal moment in the season. Imagine if they had moved Evan Williams into the starting lineup and Edgerrin Cooper into the starting lineup in, week 3 at the same time. What that could have, what the defense could have been by season's end. I think that some of the issues, such that they were for Bullard, were overstated. But there were times where it's like, yeah, he just hasn't played that much in that spot in this defense. He spent the whole offseason working as the safety. Now, we saw at times in preseason, and I flagged it at the time. So Locked On Packers, the everydayers were nodding when they saw him be the guy that they moved to the nickel in week 5 last year. That they, they had to do something. They moved Keyshawn Nixon outside and it's Javon Bullard in the slot. We go, oh, I thought he was a safety. Well, in preseason, they gave him a couple of reps in the preseason as a nickel. And now they have all these interchangeable pieces. Xavier McKinney can play in the nickel. Bullard can play in the nickel. Hobbs can play in the nickel. Keyshawn can play in the nickel. They can be so amoebic, so deep in their bag, disguising coverages, because anyone can start anywhere and go anywhere else. And that's the beauty of this defense. You're just going to play cover 3, but it's going to be from a weird look, a funky look with simulated pressure. And you're going to have guys moving around pre-snap and post-snap. And it's ultimately not a difficult coverage to identify, but you're going to have to do the work to identify it. And then if you could get, a 4-man rush would be great. But if you're going to bring simulated pressure and you think, okay, well, there's an overload blitz coming over here, and actually it's Javon Bullard coming from the backside as a slot blitzer. He was an effective blitzer last year. I liked that. That was something that I thought he could have done more. Jeff Hafley, I thought the run blitz, that was something they could have gone to more. But he's a player that we have not talked much about, and I am still very, very bullish on. I thought he was one of the best safeties in the class last year. I thought he was a perfect fit for what the Green Bay Packers wanted out of their safeties. I didn't know what to make, at least in my recollection of it. I didn't know what to make of Xavier McKinney and Bullard as a pair. But then as soon as we saw it, it made perfect sense. And for all the reasons that Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney make perfect sense. Because you can just have them play anywhere. Oh yeah, you want to have X play closer to the line of scrimmage and Evan play deep middle? Great. You want to have Evan play closer to the line and X play deep middle? Great. Same thing with Javon Bullard. He can play in the box, fit the run. He can play in the slot. Now, is he going to ever be an elite cover player? No. Is he ever going to be in the class of playmaker as Derwin James or Kyle Hamilton? Kyle Hamilton, an elite cover guy, instincts, all that stuff? I don't think so. But if he can be a really solid, reliable player who has that versatility, can play a number of different spots in this defense, or can play from anywhere, where you can use him as a disguised chess piece, and then he can hold up in coverage where you're not going, okay, this is the guy that they're going to target. I did not watch him at Georgia in the slot and go, that's a guy that you're going to target. No. If anything, I thought it was his better position. I thought he was better as a nickel than as a safety. What did he train for all offseason? Did he train to play safety? Did he add weight to play safety? Did he add, density and muscle to play safety? And sacrifice some of his short area quickness, sacrifice some of that long speed? And is that what he's going to do in this offseason? How is he going to train differently? Like, there's a number of reasons. There's year 2 is the year precisely because now he knows what is expected of him, what his role is going to be, and then how to go about taking care of his body, training for, preparing for what is going to be asked of him week in and week out. And there is something incredibly valuable about that. All right, back next week. More to come here on Locked on Packers. There is the holiday. Let's be honest, we'll still have a show. We're still going to have a show on Monday. So look out for that. And we'll figure out where we go from here in the offseason. June, maybe a little bit more sporadic, but I will keep you updated on all of that. We're still technically, for our purposes, planning purposes, in season. So still going to be plenty of content coming your way. And of course, the Leap all the time there for you. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski on X and Instagram, also on Blue Sky. And then the podcast is everywhere. Everywhere you want social medias, go subscribe to us there. We got the clips coming out, all that good stuff. And then subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube so you can stay locked on Packers.